everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Nancy. Nancy, I'll um, hand the floor over to you.
Okay. Well, I have never done a webinar before, so this is my first one. Hopefully, it'll give you some insight into the recorder baseball and the poison and recorder game. So anyway, a little bit about my background is I started taking piano lessons when I was 5. So I had music going. I was in band in high school, and I did chorus, played the piano for the chorus. And so it just seemed like logical that I would go on to music school. So I was a piano major in college, and then I got my Bachelor of Music Ed degree at Shenandoah University in Virginia. And so when I graduated from college and I went back home, I lived in a very tiny community that was very rural. There was 2 high schools that were junior, senior high schools, and then a few elementary schools. And not long after I got home, I got called by the music supervisor saying that my high school choral director decided to quit right before graduation. So they asked me if I would come in and can take over that. So I did. But to get a job in the elementary field where I wanted to be, someone had to die, move, or just retire. But I was very fortunate that I was able to get a job, not because anybody died, just because somebody left, in a school that was wonderful. And I was there for 6 years. That school did not have, well, that county did not have a music program in place. Everybody did what they wanted to do. And I was fortunate that I knew the Southern High School band director, and his wife was the middle school band director, and we could work together. And we went, the 3 of us and a couple other people went to the community, or went to the human resource building, and we put together the music program for the county that one summer. So my theory on recorder and note reading and things like that was, I thought it was my job to teach the kids how to read music notes. I've always told the kids, it's like, can we use letters? It's like, no, because kindergarten teachers teach you how to read the letters. And I think it's my job that you read the notes. So I was pretty much a stickler that we didn't use letters any more than anybody had to. On occasion, maybe. But so in Garrett County, where I taught first for 6 years, we just did song flutes, but that was only with like 1 grade level. And then I taught band and chorus there too. So then I left, met my husband, and I moved to Virginia, and I'm in Fairfax County, which is a pretty large school system, and they have a really good music program. So I started in one school that I was at for 2 years. And when I started there, there was a class that did not like recorder at all. And I wanted everybody to practice at home so they could make some improvement. And these kids were like, there's no way. So it's like I had to come up with something that would get them excited. And I don't know where it came from, but that's where recorder baseball came from. So once I started doing that, it was just like they begged to play, and they went home and they practiced. And so it started out with like maybe like the 3 notes, B, A, and G. And then I just kept adding to it. It started out on paper though. It was all like run off on a ditto machine. And then I filled in the notes on the staff. It was all hand printed. So there was balls for the singles, and then there were bats shapes for the doubles, just like on the interactive games and stuff that you see. And I was the center. I mean, I was home plate, and they would come up and they would tell me single or double. I would hold it up. They'd play it. They'd have their 3 tries. And in the middle of all that was the walks, the triples, the home runs, and things like that. So it just got the kids excited. And I thought, this is pretty good. But the thing they didn't realize was I was assessing them every time they were at bat. So that's kind of my thing too, is like anything I've created, and there's more than these 2, but anything I've created was for assessment purposes, so that the kids enjoyed what they were doing, but they really didn't think about being graded. Because if you ask a kid to come up to play a recorder right in front of you and everybody else is there, or even if they're working, it's like, no, 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 no. But with recorder baseball and Mad Measures, it was like it wasn't any big deal. So that's kind of where they started. So, and it just continued from there. And then I went from the paper version to a PowerPoint version with the different links and things like that. So that's how I did it. Then I had it published on a DVD, and it went out into a lot of the catalogs that we buy things from. And then all of a sudden, when I connected with Musicplay Online, and they offered to take it, it was like, good, thank you. So that's why it's what it is right now. So I'm very happy about that. So what would you like me to talk about as far as the game? We'll start with recorder baseball. So I can tell you how I would do it is there was a lot of questions, I think, about people can't visualize how the game works. My class was always in two sides of the room. So 3 rows, 2 sides. So one side was a team, the other side was a team. I did not have them stand up and line up. That would just be chaos. So I was at the front of the room. I was home plate. To the right of me from where I was sitting, the center of the room, that was first base. The back center of the room was second base. The left corner of the room, left middle of the room was third base. And so the kids just went to those bases. Now, when we played it, for me, they weren't allowed to, they could not steal a base, and they could not move off a base unless they were forced off. I think that's a little bit different in the interactive version, but that's cool. So that's how I set up my room. And they would come up one at a time and play. And what we talked about first, before we ever played the game, was sportsmanship, because a lot of the kids are on little league teams of some sort, and they know that, you know, sportsmanship is very important and like really number one in what's important in the game. And so it's like, always be encouraging. You can, you know, like if someone's having trouble and struggling, it's okay. And what I would do is, like, there's always kids in the room that want to help. And we put a dugout area in the back of the room. And so if someone struggled with it, and it's like, would you like some help? And yes, so they went back to the dugout and sat with one of the students, and they got help. And then kids can teach sometimes better than we can. So then they would come back and try again, you know, when it came up to be their turn again. And if a child had problems, then I would also keep them after class and go through it with them again, just to see if they really understood what they learned from the student. So, but yeah, peer coaches, let's see. Oh, another thing is, I always told my kids, the kids that knew that probably my better recorder players would always rush through it, and then they'd make a mistake, and then a strike one. And then it's like, they'd rush through it again because they really knew it, but they just wouldn't take their time. So just caution your kids that are, you know, your better students that can sight read really well. Slow down. There's no need to play it fast. Take your time and all that. And then there is some strategy to the game too. Like, you can load the bases with singles, and then pull a double, and instead of just 5 points, you can get 6 points in the game. Now, I'm not sure how that would work for the interactive version, but when we played it, the kids always do that. They could always get at least 6 points if they strategized. So another thing that I would do is, they could wear baseball hats the day that we were playing recorder baseball. That made it a lot more fun for them. And teach them the song "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And let's see, the other thing that I did a couple of times was have playoffs between classes, because, you know, like World Series and stuff goes on, and it's team against team, and then you can do class against class. So that's another activity that you could do if the kids are really into it and want to do it. The other thing is, you could do start out just with letters, saying the letters. They don't even have to play their recorder. If you want to, you know, introduce it to them and just get the kids acclimated to the game, just have them say the letters instead of playing the recorder like the first time or so that you play the game, especially when you go to a new level. I think that's helpful. So that's recorder baseball. Do you want to take questions now about recorder baseball?
Maybe let's show it on Musicplay Online and where it is, and then let's
yeah,
on that game. Yeah.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. it didn't show me the whole thing, but it showed me you're missing something. And my guess is that you're missing on this interactive version. Oh, here it is. Oh, the sound effects with the cheering crowd. Yeah. Kids want to help the kids understand what the parents. You let teammates help teammates. Not when they're up at bat, but after. I will let them help afterwards. So if they're struggling, then I let them go to the back and they can get some help, but not when they're up at bat. I don't think that works so well. Yeah, the version on Musicplay is different because of how they had to put it together than my DVD disc that I created. But I was told today by someone that my PowerPoint version is getting so outdated that it's not going to be able to be used for probably much longer on with the technology they have. So well, actually on this version, you can't do I don't think right now they haven't put the doubles and the triples and that in yet. So they could probably, if they can get those in there, they would probably be able to add sound effects too, I would think. So anyway, next, anybody, another question?
It looks like we don't have any questions waiting for you in the chat. But
Okay.
Carrie Lynn, did you want to share the screen and then we can take a look at everything?
Sure. Let me know when you can see it.
It's right there. And just as a reminder for everyone, if you do have questions, and you feel free to put them in the chat at any time, and I am keeping track of them in our question and answer document for you. So your question will not be forgotten or lost in chat.
Okay.
All right, you're good to go, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, so there are 3 ways to find it. Way number 1 would be clicking on Nancy Otto's content creator profile, and then you can see all of the resources here. They have just been, Baseball Recorder has been translated into French, so if you are using French in your school, feel free to use that version. You can also see that we have them linked in the instruments right here. Again, just a really quick, easy way to find all the stuff. So that's way number 1. Way number 2, I'll just go to the game, and then I'll show number 3. That's how a list works. So Recorder Baseball, this is going to be the interactive version. So yeah, so unlike the projectable version that we'll look at after, this version does not have the triple and the home run. Is that right?
And the walk.
And the walk. That's the one. Yeah. So yeah, that our programmer wasn't able to slip that under. So hopefully he can get it within the next week or 2. But all the levels are here. And if you tap to load the game, it'll just load nice and quick. A little bit of music. And so if you click like how to play, it'll run through all of the instructions that Nancy just kind of went through. And then starting, here's also something that's different is you can pick how many innings you can do. So if you need just like a little bit of time at the end of a class, feel free to use 1. Or if you want to go for a big, huge tournament level, 9 will make the game nice and long. So I think that's the only other thing that's different. Danae, did I miss anything from the interactive that's different?
Nope. There are some like additional animations and things that might be fun to show as well in that.
Right. So heads, tails.
That was cool.
So Nancy, you said that the strategy is to load the bases with singles.
Yeah, if the kids think about it, they really could get 6 points, or depending and then if you had like the triples and the walks, you actually sometimes they could have gotten 8, but yeah, you could, if the kids think about it, they can. I don't tell them that though, usually let them figure it out on their own, but then they do. But yeah, you could go do a couple doubles and then put a single in there and just keep loading the bases, and then it's like oh, you can get more points that way.
No kidding.
So,
Hmm.
but,
And
and then,
planning.
yeah.
Okay.
And then when they were at bat, then there's an assessment sheet where you can write the names down. And I mean, you could set up the teams yourself if you wanted to ahead of time, your strong players and divide them up. So there's like an even balance in in each team. And then I would put S1 or S0 if they got the hit on the first try. S1 meant they struck out once, S2 struck out twice, S3 they struck out 3 times. That way, when I go back to my grade book, I had all that information to see how they were doing and if they needed extra help and things like that. The double would be, of course, D0, D1, D2, D3 as an assessment. And that was just a quick way for me to know how they did when they were at bat.
Okay. And I think we have that linked in the instrument section.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Head over there. So yeah, just really quickly, batting team is blue, remaining outs, you've got 3, your inning, and then your blue and red for points. And then if we had a single, the ball comes, and do you hit or do you strike that? Depending. I really like your idea about reading the note names as a level 1, right?
I just think it's a good way to introduce it so that they have a little experience before they have to get up there with their recorder and
Yeah, yep. Awesome. Alrighty, and then just because it's cool.
That's cool.
Okay. Alrighty. So it just continues like that. And so I'll show you where the other version, so if we're on Musicplay Online, log in, you'll find it under Instruments, drop this little recorder menu down, recorder baseball's here. If you don't want to see the French, make sure you just click all languages and then click English, and then only the English will show. And for some reason we're picking this one, not number 1, but that's okay. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see this is the interactive that we just came from the game section. And then you've got the game version, which is just the projectable slides. There are no.
And in this one, this has the walks in that show up.
Yeah.
But the kids have to understand well, you can keep going, but I always do the review with them too, with the fingerings and things like that. So say they pick a double, the next slide is a single. So you'd have to bypass that. And even if that would be a walk or a home run or something, the kids have to realize you didn't pick that, so you're not getting it. Yeah. Right. So I would explain that to them ahead of time. If you pick a double, you're going to play a double, no matter whether the singles one of the freebies or not. So such is life.
Yep.
So anyway.
Okay, and then I'm just gonna go back a couple slides because you mentioned this.
Yeah, that. So I always review that with the kids before we start just to review the fingerings and have everybody these are the notes.
Yeah. Do we have this as part of the game, Danae? This review slide?
We don't. That was a V2 for Matthew Tech.
Okay, so let's add that and the home runs and the walks. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, and then we've got the double practice.
Yeah, these are all the practice slides are all of I don't remember how many there are different ones there are, but it has all just like each of the possible double that would come up in a series, and then the singles I guess are on the next one.
And singles are down here, same format. Okay. When would you use the practice versus the game? Just in general?
You could practice. I mean, you could even do those with letters before, because you spend so much time. Like I know I do on BA and G. You spend a lot of time on that, and just you could pull these slides up and just have that as a class review. Right. I mean, you could have half the class play. You could have the whole class. You could have one person play. Yeah. So you mix it up a little bit.
Okay. Okay, and then down here we have the directions, which is a PDF of directions, so that kind of walks you through. Oh, and this is where your assessment
Right.
notes are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And then your scoreboard.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a built-in scoreboard in the one, so and when I played it, I didn't even use my scoreboard. We had a whiteboard and we just put team A, team B, and the kids as they came up, they put a tally mark in for their when they came in. So I didn't have to keep score. The kids did that on their own.
Okay.
So
Okay, and then this is this the assessment sheet you were talking
yeah.
about?
So like I said, you could set it up ahead of time and even out the teams if you want, and just have the names typed in, and then first time at bat, in the one spot, then you could put single. They got a first time, so it's S0, or if they've struck out, it's S3, and I would just put it right in there. But it just gives you a way to assess them very quickly.
Yeah, all in one page too.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. And then your tips and suggestions.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, you talked about with the dugout. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the good sportsmanship. Just remind them, like, because somebody, I know there were a few people that said the kids get restless or whatever, but when they go to a baseball game, if they're even playing in a game, there's downtime. They don't play the whole time. They need to, be able to sit there. I've had mine finger along while the batters at bat playing. If you could even give them, like, if you want to create a worksheet or something where they would have to write the letter names of the notes that the batter's playing. I mean, just to keep them busy.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends on the class, because I've played it with all different classes and stuff for years, and some classes are really great about not needing anything to keep them occupied. They're just into the game, and then other classes just like they're just out there. So
Okay, then the printables. These are just the flashcards, right? That you can do offline.
This is to print it out. And like if you wanted to go outside and you could print these out and actually play it outside like I did originally, where you just have the cards in your hand and the child comes up to you, and you can play it outside and make your own little baseball field out there.
Right.
And then there's the walk and the triple and the home run. You just shuffle into the deck so that they're out there.
I see.
Yeah, there they are.
Okay. Ooh, different game.
And I would print a couple of each of those, because the more they see those, it's like, okay, maybe I'll get one.
Okay. Alrighty, I think that's everything for Recorder Baseball on Musicplay Online.
Okay.
Are there any questions, Danae?
Let's see.
I have a couple I've just noted here.
Okay.
One of them, Charlie just posted in the chat. And just for clarification, they ask, I played through Instruments - Recorder, but it is a different looking game when accessed through games, correct? So I think they're asking, is the interactive slightly different visually than the game?
My
Like
original game?
No, than the two versions on Musicplay Online.
Yeah.
And
I believe it's random, as opposed to projectables are not random. So projectables, if you've got smart kids, they'll start memorizing. But the game is random, so there's that. I don't, and then other than like the interactives, I don't think there's anything else. And of course,
the patterns are the same.
Yes, patterns are the same, and there's no home run, walk, or triple.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Okay.
And then I did have one question from earlier, and Nancy, I think you touched on it just a touch, but I'll say it again just in case anyone missed it.
Okay.
Do you let teammates help teammates? For example, when some students want to show other students the correct fingering that maybe they're messing up on or something in their first try.
No, not when they're at bat, but after they're done at bat, we remind them again about good sportsmanship and how you're there to help your teammates, you're there to support your team. Then they can go to the dugout, and then that student can get the help they want from that other person. And then generally that helps a lot, that when the child comes back up the next time, they understand it better. Kids can teach sometimes way better than, the teachers. So.
Alrighty.
All right, excellent. That's the only question that I have logged right now for the baseball section.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop sharing then, Nancy, and then you can talk a little bit about Mad Minute.
Okay. Yeah, Poison Recorder. When I first created it, it was called Mad Measures. So I don't know if any of you may have used that in the past, but Mad Measures was another way that I had to have the kids learn how to read notes and to sight read. And it starts out with, it has the different levels too, BA, BAG. This one, the BA is what I like to start with. And so I used it in a whole multitude of ways. First of all, again, I would start with letters. I would not start with recorders or anything like that, because you can start earlier with it with just letters too. But let me back up. So even in second grade, you can use the Poison Recorder, because on the BA version, you have a line note and a space note. So you can do line, space, space, line. So you could do that and play the game. When you go into then third grade or second grade, at the end of second grade, if you're going to teach any kind of letters or anything like that, or note names, you can start with B and A. At the end or the very beginning of third grade, you can start with, that's when we started recorder and started line and spaces. But then you can start with the notes B and A. But before we didn't start recorders until like the middle of the year. So I had what I call suitcase bells. So it was the little tone bells and a little green suitcase thing. Or even if you have the barred or if instruments or whatever, you can just take I had tone chimes too, but you could take the B and the A and let the children like split the class in half. You guys are B's, you guys are A's, here's your thing, and have them play those to get used to looking at the notes one at a time, and then you can swap. But I found that a really good way to teach them how to read the line notes and the space notes. And then of course, like when we introduced G, then we'd go to the BAG version. But after introducing the recorders at to the third graders to start with, then I would pull out Poison Recorder really early, because it's so repetitive. You play the same notes over and over and over, just in different orders. It's a great way for them to internalize what they look like. Actually, Poison Recorder I liked Recorder Baseball, but I really liked Poison Recorder too, because it tended to help with them remember the note names a lot better. So for Poison Recorder, if you want to, let's see if I have anything else I want to say before that. Okay, so instead of using the recorders, I said you could say the letter names out loud. And so what I would do when we were playing this, I would count off, okay, 1, 2, ready, go. But I would say, okay, ready, play would be everybody. So 1, 2, everybody play. Or 1, 2, row 1, play. 1, 2, row 3, play. Run 2, Henry, play. 1, 2, Susie, play. And that way you could assess the kids on that as well, even just note names, letter names. And then the same thing when they got their recorders and stuff and playing. So you could hear kids individually, but it just kept moving so that you would get the whole class together. It might be half the class, then one person, maybe the next person, and then go back to the whole class again and stuff like that. So there was a whole way to mix it up. So if you pull up the picture of the game. Okay, so, all right, let's just go down to another slide. Oh, this one, the number needs to change from, that's one of those, this is the only one where the number of slides didn't change, where people were talking about it. So this whole introduction, though, was because it was called Mad Measures originally. It was, Denise thought it was too close to Mad Minutes and things like that. So she wanted to change it to make it more applicable for what it really is. So we went ahead and changed it. So that's where this whole little Mad Musician comes in, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense probably to most people, but it used to. So it just says, you know, play it, don't play it, or if I lose my cool, then you'll go to timeout if you play it the wrong time. So you can go on to the next one. Okay, so this is the measure. So we actually go through this and repeat it over and over and over so that they understand, they've got it in their head. This is the one, don't, from this point on, don't say it. And take a hike means I just put them in the back of the room, but I didn't let them stay there because some of the kids really like to go to the back of the room and they'll play just on purpose. So okay, I have to go now. I have to go back there. So they didn't stay long. They only stayed for maybe 2 rounds and then they came back. But I had them fingering along so they weren't just back there standing goofing off. So, okay, next one. So this is where we would start with like, okay, 1, 2, everybody play. A, B, B, rest. And we would just keep moving on. 1, the next slide, I would just keep moving at 1, 2, so play. And then only that one person would do it. Or 1, 2, row 1 play, or just boys or just girls, so that you can go back and forth a whole number of ways. But this is the game where if you have instruments, like I said, the tone bells or tone chimes or instruments or whatever, where you can isolate those 2 notes, the A and the B, it works really well as an intro to before they get their recorders, to teach them how to read those notes. And
so then this is like the poison measure, right?
A, B, yeah. So the next slide then would say, okay, yeah, if you played it, no, off the timeout, you must go. So. Okay. And then because some of these kids always wanted to do it, so I would start keeping points. If nobody played, they got a point. If somebody played, I got a point. Okay. Now, I don't know what the result would be, but they tried to be on that. So that kind of helped eliminate some of that playing out of turn just for fun. So, because they wanted to have more points than I did. So, yeah. But again, everything I think I've ever created has to do with an assessment of some sort, but I just don't want the kids to know they're being assessed. I just wanted it in game form so that they wouldn't freak out. This was just a good way to do it. So, anybody have a question?
Hi, yeah. I don't have any questions about recorder baseball in the chat. But one thing I was curious about, and perhaps others have it brewing as well, is how do you set up your class for this? Like, I know you mentioned like in the out, but like who's going up and who's, playing and that kind of thing, just for clarification.
So my classroom always sat in 3 rows with an aisle down the center. And if there were more kids, then there might be 4 rows, but there was always an aisle down the center. So I had half a classroom on one side and half on the other. So generally, I just let them stay on those sides. Now, if you want to set up your teams, I would still set them up in, you get this half the room and in so many rows, you get this half. And so when it was the blue team's turn to come up, everybody would stay in their seat except the person that was at bat. I did not have them line up because that's asking for chaos. So the one person came up, they were at bat and they took their turn. And then when they got on base, they just went to whatever first base or second base. It was around the room. And PE is very happy to loan you bases if you want to, make it even more baseballish. And then they would just come around the bases and then they would go back to their seat until and then the next team would go up and it was the same thing. But I just had them in their seats taking turns, and the bullpen or dugout was in the back of the room. So if somebody needed help, they could go back there and practice quietly together.
All right, excellent. I actually do have one question from YouTube as well.
Okay.
For all the folks who maybe don't know baseball as well, this resonates with me because I don't know baseball that well. Can you explain how a walk and a triple work?
Okay, so baseball, yeah. A walk puts a player on first base. Okay, if you ever watch a baseball game and they get a walk, they just get to go to first base. So the double, of course, if they play it correctly, it's twice as many no's. They're going to go around first, on to second. When I played, then the players advance if somebody's coming up to their base. A triple puts a player on third base. Okay, and they would come around all the bases, and if anybody else is on a base with them, then they would all have to come around, and actually that would send all the other people home. And the home run, you go around all the bases, and just like in regular baseball, then they'd come back to the home plate, and anybody that was in front of them would come in too. Hopefully that answers the question.
That definitely does. And you actually answered my next question, which is going to be, well, what about those other people on those other bases? So that is excellent.
Yeah, they could, they're not, I don't let them move until there's somebody coming up to force them off. But in the interactive game, it lets them move. If they play a double, it actually lets them move 2 spaces, no matter, even the person in front of them moves 2 spaces if you watch the players on the screen. So I'm not sure if I would keep that. But anyway, I mean, it's a cool little feature, but I'm not sure if I would keep that. Because I always played that the kids could not advance unless they were forced off the base. It might get a little confusing how many bases to move. I'm not sure.
That's totally fair. We've added that as a little note in our behind the scenes notes page here.
Yeah, it's really, I love the graphics. I mean, I love all the, the little cute things that you guys have put in there. It's really nice, the interactive stuff.
But yeah, I don't have any more questions logged in my sheet here. If anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or to raise your hand. Give a couple seconds for that. One thing I will say is, for those who aren't on our, Facebook groups and things, we do have a very active Musicplay Teachers Facebook group. And Recorder Baseball has been wildly popular. The kids love it. It's been just, everyone's over the moon about it, which is excellent.
Made my heart happy.
Oh, wonderful. I actually do have one additional question here.
Okay.
What is the best way to encourage or handle those students who are very nervous or afraid to play in front of their classmates by themselves?
You know your students better than anybody. And I've had students that just, couldn't handle playing in front of people. If they really can and you think it's going to stress them to the max, I would not push it. I would see them after class and have them play for me, just so I could get an assessment grade out of it. But if somebody is really stressing, I'm not sure it's worth causing them anxiety to do it. Most of the kids want to play. And I know some kids will say, well, she didn't have to play, but like I said, you know your students. You could send them back to the dugout for help. Generally, it's the ones who aren't practicing at home too. And I know a lot of teachers don't care if their kids practice at home. I did, because like when I taught third grade, I had a full recital where the parents came, the entire class played, no letters on their music. And we'd have cookies and punch afterwards. It was amazing what those third graders learned in 1 year. BAG, I think we did C and D as well. But it took a lot of pushing for their practicing at home. That's the only way they're going to ever be able to sight read really, really well. So, Matt, the poison recorder helps the sight reading. So one works with the other.
Right. Excellent. I don't have any more questions here, but Carrie Lynn, I just realized we should show how to find Nancy's stuff in the presenter area, if possible. I don't think we went through that.
The presenter area on Musicplay Online?
Yes.
Or the content creator?
Yeah, that one. My apologies. My mind's in webinar land. Content creator is the word we're looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So when you're on the home screen, that goes for anybody who creates content. So Nancy Otto is just right here. If you click on her picture, you'll see everything. The last time I showed it, I showed all languages. And so you saw those little French ones here. Again, if you teach French, we have Baseball Recorder translated. Additionally, after this webinar, we will include a link to this webinar so that you can rewatch it in this section up here. It doesn't look like anything right now because it's not linked, but it will be. And then, yeah, you can hop in and get a little refresher, and that should be good. Okay. Is there anything else, Danae, that you wanted me to show?
Nope, that's everything. Thank you for the little reminder. Content creator.
Anything else you think I should cover that I should have covered and I didn't?
I
think we're great.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nancy, for coming and
You're welcome.
And showing us how to do it and explaining a little bit. I don't know baseball, so I really appreciate those explanations and all that. For everybody else, we have a webinar next week, and we actually have several webinars happening over the next 2 months. And then, of course, the virtual summer symposium is free this year because of the Memorial Fund that for Denise Gagne. So definitely check that out. Recordings, as usual, will be available all year. So that is going to be great. And other than that, I think we're good to go. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Enjoy. We are experiencing snow in Red Deer, Alberta today, and it's just really bad weather, but I guess it's good because there's moisture, so yay. Awesome. Okay, thank you, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.